Hey there, it's Amanda here, jumping on to do a quick live. It's pouring with rain here, so I'm hoping that the video doesn't sort of get interrupted by that. Today we're talking about toilet seats. So today's topic is it too much to ask for the toilet seat to be put down? And really it's not about toilet seats as such, but it's a story that I kind of connected with recently. And initially I didn't want to talk about this because I thought this is ridiculous, a toilet seat story. But the more I thought about it, I kept getting more information about what this is really about. So I just wanted to share that with you today because it's kind of a funny story. The way I work is quite intuitive, and sometimes I'll have these ideas and I'm not sure why. Often it happens with clients, but this one, just recently I went into my bathroom and I noticed that the toilet seat was up, which happens all the time. But this particular day, I looked at the toilet seat being up and thought, toilet seat up or toilet seat down? What's that about? And I don't even know why I had that thought, but it got me thinking. When I first moved in with my husband, many, many years ago, like 26 years ago now, we used to argue over the fact that I wanted the toilet seat down and he wanted the toilet seat up after he'd used it, because a lot of females that I know of my generation, I'm not sure if it's changed, but there's an expectation an expectation that we like the toilet seat to be down after the men have used it. It's a courtesy. It's a nice thing to be able to go into the toilet and not be surprised by the toilet seat being up. And so this day when I looked at the toilet, I'm like, why am I thinking about toilet seats? And then I asked myself, my husband and I used to argue about this in our younger years, but why? And that story started playing out in my mind because even though we argued about it at the time, I never actually thought about why that was happening. We were just arguing. I wasn't thinking about the why behind it. And the more I thought about it, I realised, I came from a family where that was the expectation. There were more girls in the household than there were boys, and it was the culture that I was raised with. So when I moved in with my husband, who comes from a family of all boys, he's got 3 brothers, so there are 5 men in his house, and his mother, they just left the toilet seat up all the time. In fact, they had their own bathroom. The boys had their own bathroom, so there was no need to put the toilet seat down. So you can imagine when I moved in with my husband, I had the expectation that it's nicer to have the seat down, but yet he's been raised with the expectation that the toilet seat stays up. If you want to put it down. And this used to cause so much frustration. In the end, I gave up. It's one of those things. But then when the children came along, I also wanted to teach them the nice way of putting the toilet seat down, because I think it's a nice courtesy. I couldn't change my husband. He had learned through his childhood to do it that way. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, isn't that what they say? But with the kids, I thought, okay, I want the boys to learn these good habits. I think it's a nice thing to do. But again, I was met with resistance. It was like, well, firstly, they didn't even question it. They just kept leaving it up. And I found myself getting really frustrated. So again, I gave up. I just gave up on it. But when I saw my toilet seat up the other day, I started thinking back on this, how this all played out. And for me, what I realised was how unrealistic we can be with our expectations about something as trivial as a toilet seat. And I know there are some people who are far more passionate about wanting to have the toilet seat down because it looks nicer or because it's a courtesy. But it really got me questioning, where did this even come from? Where did my teachings, why did my mum and my dad teach me that that's the way it should be? Because should it be up or should it be down? And I was a little bit curious. I'm a bit of a curious cat like that. So I thought I'll go to an expert, I'll find out why this is the case. So I called my mum. I call my mum for all things I don't know about. And because what I realised was maybe this comes from a time when we used to have outhouses. And there was a reason why the toilet seat had to go down, because there should be a reason, right? We shouldn't just do things for no reason. What's the point in that? So I called my mum and I said, hey mum, look, I know you had an outhouse as a child. The whole toilet seat up, toilet seat down thing, is that where it came from? Did you have to have the toilet seat down for a particular reason? And she said, well, she said, it's not that it has to be up or down. She said, it is a courtesy, but you definitely had to have the lid down on the outhouse because you didn't want snakes getting in. And I'm like, oh, so that makes sense. She said, because the worst thing would be a snake coming up and biting you on the bum while you're going to the loo, which was hilarious. I went, true. And I love it when there's a reason. But when there's a reason, it gives us that, I don't know, it's like creates this certainty, and that's why we should do it. It makes sense, right? So I don't know if that's where the history comes from, but I know my mum learned that. And so, of course, when she had her children, she taught us toilet seat down. It's a courtesy thing. But I know as life evolves and changes, these habits are changing too. But I know there are women out there who do have that expectation, and it can become quite a frustration point between family members when our partners and our children aren't doing what we ask. But I always come back to this. If it doesn't make sense, why would you do it? And so often when my children were younger and I'd ask them to do something, I'd see their faces and they'd look at me like, I wouldn't say it, but I could see they're going, but why? And those are the moments where I've gone, why am I asking them to do this? And so I've changed a lot of the habits that I grew up with because it didn't make sense. It made life harder because we were arguing about these things and it was really unnecessary. And that's where I now teach simple home organising, because a lot of the stuff that we do, which is habits, create these expectations which causes conflict and drama in our lives that we don't need to have. So if you take the toilet seats, for example, and I think this is why this story came, because I needed to bring this up. I think sometimes when you have a story behind the why we do behind what we do, it gets us thinking about what are the other things that we do that don't make sense. For example, if you're finding that there's drama with your children when it comes to laundry, why is that? Like, I always like to look at the process and go, why are the kids resisting this? Or why aren't they doing what I asked them to do? What's the resistance? Often it's because it doesn't make sense. And then I'd review what I did and I'd make it easier and go, you know what? It didn't make sense. I was just doing it because that's what I've always done. And it created this unrealistic expectation for my family to then follow through. And of course, I mean, I've got two children who are very different in the way they think. I've got one very messy child and one little daydreamer. So trying to get them to do what I wanted them to do because my expectations were here and they kind of couldn't meet those expectations creates way more drama than you need to. And it's so much easier to live when you can identify these stories with these expectations we have. And the easiest way to do this is to look for those moments where there is drama or there's frustration between two family members and go, why aren't they doing it the way I want them to do? Am I making it too challenging? Is it too difficult? Are my expectations unrealistic? If you can cater to the youngest child, if you can sort of get into the mind of a 5-year-old and make it simple and easy for them, anyone can do it. So today I ask, have a look at your expectations. Are there things that are causing grief in your home? Or maybe your family's just given in and they're doing it. But the other thing to remember too is that we are passing on these subconscious beliefs and expectations to our family without even knowing it a lot of the time, and they're going to take that with them into their adult lives and have these expectations with their family too. So I'm very much about connecting with the why behind what we do, because if it doesn't make sense, why on earth do we do it, and why do we create drama when we don't need to? So that's my video for today. It's about toilet seats, but it's not really. It's about the expectations about why we do what we do, and if we don't understand why we're doing it, why do we do it? It's taken me 20 years to come to that revelation. I didn't question it when I was younger. That's the wisdom of getting older, I guess. And the more I work with clients on these, these problems that they have, these stories come through to me. It's like I've learned the hard way of playing it out and going, you know what? We have choices here. It's about identifying what's happening and then making the simple mindset shift to make it easier. And that's what I do with clients. It's a lot of belief work and also energy healing, because sometimes it can be hard to make those changes. So that's my video for today. I hope you like my toilet seat story. Bit of a strange one, but I figure as these ideas come through, I'm just going to share them because, you know what, if it starts you thinking about what you do and you can start living it in an easier way because you identify that it makes no sense why you're doing it that particular way, then that's made this video worthwhile. Thanks for watching. I hope you're having a great day. Oh, hey, Angela. Oh, the toilet seat. Yeah, let me know down below or in the comments here, Angela. Do you care if the toilet seat's up or the toilet seat's down? Now, boys don't care. Obviously, they don't care because they just want it up most of the time. But for females, it's nice to have the toilet seat down. Look, coming from a military background, I've got some toilet seat stories, which I'm not going to share, but are kind of horrendous. When you're living with men, mainly men, and the toilet seat not getting put down, yeah, it can be quite unpleasant. But in our household, we get to make the choice. And for me, it's not a drama to put the seat down. It's not. It's just that I was raised with the expectation that the males would put the seat down. And making that mindset shift took a while. But by talking about this, I'm hoping if you're doing it, you may start to think about it differently, or even open the conversation with your kids because it doesn't really matter. Okay, that's my video for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.